Hello, I'm crime fiction writer Brenda Chapman, and it's my pleasure today to have with me fellow Ottawa author Mike Martin. This is the 8th in a series of interviews introducing some of the fine Crime Writers of Canada authors from the Ottawa and Eastern Ontario region. Now, Mike is past president of Crime Writers of Canada, and he's also author of the Sgt Windflower Mysteries, set in Newfoundland. Hi, Mike.
Good morning, Brenda. Nice to be here.
Yeah, it's great to have you here this morning. Now, let's get right into the questions. You say in your bio that you have always been a writer. What life experiences led you to begin writing crime fiction?
Well, I've always wanted to be a writer, and I had three older sisters, two of which were teachers, so they would drag me to the library, and that's where I learned to love reading. And I think in order to be a writer, you have to be a good reader. And so I was a good reader early on, and over the years I found ways to write, but only in the last 10 years or so have I been writing crime fiction. So it's been a fun adventure.
Yeah. So in 2011, you published your first book, which was not crime fiction, I don't think. It's called Change the Things You Can, Dealing with Difficult People. So what led you to write this book, and what is your piece of advice you might give us about how to deal with difficult people?
Well, I wrote the book because I did a lot of work in workplace wellness and trying to help improve the workplace. And that book kind of came out of there, kind of lessons learned. And what I discovered was around difficult people is that we can change them. They are going to be difficult, and we have. So our choice is: do we want to accept them? Do we want to try and build ourselves up better so we can deal with them, or do we want to leave? And probably the most important lesson is if you're in a toxic workplace or a toxic relationship, you should think about leaving.
Yeah, I guess it's not the advice that everyone wants to hear, but perhaps it's the best thing sometimes. Okay. Now, settings are really important and can almost become a character in murder mysteries. Why did you choose Grand Bank, Newfoundland, in which to set your Sgt Windflower mysteries? And why is it such a good location for your stories?
Well, Grand Bank itself is a wonderful little place. It has a long history as a place where people went out to the sea and they've traveled all over the world. It was an international center of the what's called the Grand Banks fishery, and they built schooners that travel the whole world. So it was kind of a small community with a big international flavor, and but I got connected to Grand Bank because my partner. She bought her grandfather's house there, an old saltbox two-story house, and we ended up going there for the summer. And I love the place. I love the community. And one night, Sgt Windflower appeared to me, and I started writing my stories.
Yeah, well, that's very cool. And it's quite a rugged setting, I imagine, as well.
Yeah, it's beautiful when the weather is good, and the weather's not often very good. And it's right on the ocean, which means there's lots of storms, lots of difficulties, all different times of the year. And there's almost always fog, which makes a great setting for mysteries.
Oh, yeah, it does. Well, you've just said how he came to be your lead character. He came to you, but can you give us a brief character sketch of Sgt Windflower?
Well, I often say that he came out of the fog in Grand Bank and came into my sort of creative sphere and started talking to me, and I started writing down his story. And then other characters came along, and I started writing down their stories too. He's a Cree from northern Alberta. He's an RCMP officer, and so he was stationed a couple of places first, and finally got stationed in Grand Bank. And of course, people who follow the series know that he fell in love with the place, with the food, with the customs, and with a special lady in town.
Yeah, kind of like you did. I note that book 7 in your series, called Darkest Before the Dawn, won the Bonnie Blythe Award. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And it was in 2019 for Best Light Mystery. The books are categorized as ghost mysteries on Amazon. Is there a ghost haunting your pages?
Well, in this book, there was a ghost, and if I could say a real ghost.
Hmm.
The Windflower and his girlfriend, and later to be wife, Sheila Hillier, bought a B&B, an old historic B&B.
Hmm.
And the builder of the place, him and his wife lived in the B&B. And they never had a room that they kept as their own because they rented out whatever room anybody wanted for the night. And so the ghost became, or the wife became a ghost who wandered through the house looking for a room to sleep in, even after she died. And so that's a kind of a true story, or at least a story, and that became the ghost in Darkness Before the Dawn.
Because there's a lot of folklore in Newfoundland, eh? A lot of tales. And
Yeah, and this was a great story that actually, somebody told me the story, and I thought, wow, that would fit in great somewhere. So eventually, it ended up in a book. That's like most of our stuff, Brenda. That when we're talking to people and they tell us a story, the next thing you know, some version of it ends up in your book.
yeah, you're lodging it away and thinking, how can I use this?
Yeah.
If only people knew. Now, the latest book in this series is The Perfect Storm, which is a great title, and it was released this year. Please give us the 1-minute elevator pitch about your book.
Well, it's the usual Sgt Windflower mystery, which has got a lot of food and friends, and it has a couple of murders. The interesting thing about this book is that a piece of it is set in Las Vegas, which is kind of weird, but it kind of works too.
Okay. And are there more Sgt Windflower, books in the works? And yeah, tell us what you're working on now.
Well, the interesting thing about the pandemic is that it was awful for lots of people, but it was good for writers, particularly good for me. So I wrote 2 Windflower books during the pandemic, and so one will come out in May of this year, and the other one will come out in the fall. So it's been interesting, and at the beginning you kind of feel confined, but once you were able to write, it kind of opened everything up again. So it gave me a project, it gave me a focus, and it was really useful during this awful time.
So you must have been writing every day.
I write every day, and particularly when I'm writing a book, usually I have a word count. I write in the morning. If I don't hit it in the morning, I have to do it in the afternoon. And then after about 3 months or so, I have some version of a book that needs a lot of work. And then it goes into sort of the production side, the editing and beta reading, and for another 3 months. And then another 6 months of promo. That's kind of my life now.
Yeah, yeah. I think a lot of authors are in the same situation. So I'm going to close with a few snapper questions to know more about you. Where did you grow up?
I grew up in St. John's, Newfoundland, which is the big city of Newfoundland. Actually, Newfoundland and Labrador now, and so that's my background. And I'm known as a townie, and Grand Bank, of course, is what we call around the bay. So they're baymen. So in some ways, there's a little conflict there as well.
Now, if I drop by your house for a seafood meal, what would you serve me?
I would certainly serve you, if I had it, I would serve you fresh cod fried with scrunchions. And scrunchions, which everybody in Newfoundland knows, are fried pork rinds that get scrunched up really small, and they make an absolutely fabulous sort of little sauce for the fish.
You know, my husband's from Digby, Nova Scotia, and my family's all from the Maritimes at some point. So a lot of trips there and a lot of seafood, but I've never had a scrunchie. Do you have any other hobbies or interests?
Well, I used to say writing was my hobby, but I think that I'm always trying to learn something new. I'm not very good at it. Every year I try something else. So this year I'm going to try to learn to play the piano.
Wow.
What I've discovered is that as you get older, if you keep learning, you kind of stay a little young. And so my partner got me a keyboard, electronic keyboard at Christmas. So now I'm going to go on YouTube and see how Glenn Gould did it.
Have you ever played an instrument before?
I played a little guitar in the past, but this is a completely different field. So I'll let you know in a year how I make out.
I'll come to your concert. What's the last book you read or are reading?
I'm reading Donna Leon, who writes this fabulous mystery series set in Venice, with featuring Commissario Brunetti.
Hmm.
And one of the things I really like about the series, and the book is called Trace Elements, it's her latest book. One of the things I like about the series is that it has a lot of food in there. So in every book, there's this fabulous Italian meal that kind of inspired a little piece of what I do with Windflower.
Yeah, and it's kind of nice to travel to Venice, even in the
Okay.
pages of a book. We can't go
Yeah, so that was another bonus. That of course they hate tourists in Venice because they overrun the place,
Many.
but we'd all love to go.
Ah. And what is your idea of a perfect day?
I thought about that. I saw the questions you sent, and I thought about putting a whole lot of activities. But you know what? I'm pretty happy these days. I would say today is the perfect day. That it really is what we make of it. The sun is shining today. It's a little cool outside, but if you bundle up, it's a perfect day. I mean, I don't live too far from the canal, and even if I'm not going skating, I can go watch and enjoy the people skating along. And I live in Ottawa. I live in a beautiful place. We're safe. I have everything I need. So today is perfect.
Yeah, great answer. And what's something people might be surprised to learn about you?
Well, maybe it's not a big secret, but I'm not the big mystery fan in the family. I read some mysteries. I read Donna Leon. I certainly have read the classics, Agatha Christie, and lots more. But and Brenda Chapman's, of course. But I'm not the mystery fan. That was my partner. She introduced me to mysteries, particularly cozy mysteries. And out of that, I gained an appreciation for the genre, and also I could see that there is a basic framework for a mystery that, regardless of what kind it is, and that allowed me to start writing my own mystery. So, but I'm not the big fan in the family. I can't claim that I am.
So you came to them kind of later in life.
Yeah, I came to it vicariously through her, through watching how much enjoyment she was getting from the cozy mystery she was reading.
Yeah, that's great. So, Mike, where can people go to find out more about your books and more about you?
Well, you can go visit the website at www.sergeantwindflowermysteries.com, and certainly on Facebook, Sergeant Windflower Mysteries there, on Twitter, social media. I'm not as active as I probably could be on social media, but I maintain a presence, and whenever I have news to share, I'm on social media.
Okay, and we'll put your website link down below the video.
Perfect, thank you.
So it was great speaking with you today, and yeah, I hope we can meet up soon.
Thank you, Brenda. It's a great pleasure to be with you too.
Okay, bye, Mike.
Bye.